Good evening. Welcome to the February 6, 2019 meeting of the Hampton Planning Board. Would you please join me in the salute to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Tonight's board consists of, on my left, your right, Tracy Emmerich, Vice Chairman, Alex Lyso, our Clerk, Mark Olson, Lori Olivier, our Office Manager. I'm Fran McMahon, Chairman for this year. On my right, your left, Jason Bichon, the Town Planner, Mary Louise Woolsey, the Selectmen's Representative, and Ann Carnaby. Before we begin, we have one continuance, item number 18-045, that's 2325 Kentville Terrace. They requested to continue until our April 3rd meeting.
So moved.
Moved. Second by Mark. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Alex?
New public hearings, 19-4, Route 101 and Church Street Row. Maps 241, 251, 263, 265, 273, and 274. Lot not applicable. Applicant, Aquarian Water Company. Owner of record, New Hampshire Department of Transportation and the Town of Hampton. Wetlands permit, installation of approximately 3,930 linear feet of new water main within right-of-way of Route 101 from Church Street to southeast of intersection of Landing Road to replace old water main.
Would you please join us?
Good evening, I'm Carl McMorrin, Operations Manager for Aquarion. And with me is Amanda Kais and James. I don't know if James Collins is going to say anything or not, but they're both here from Ty and Bond. Just by way of introduction, this is the main replacement project of the main that crosses the marsh from Tide Mill Road down to the beach.
I got a tripod back there.
It's part of the program of trying to ensure the reliability of the system. That's one of two transmission mains to the beach, so it's got a fair amount of critical importance. It's about 60 years old. We think there's at least one leak on it. There's other complications with, if we had to get at it out in the marsh, you're well aware of the expense and the challenges the town had with their sewer pipes crossing the marsh. So this is somewhat of a proactive project to get it out, get it up onto the highway. New pipe, hopefully eliminate a lot of problems going forward. So I'm going to turn it over to Amanda to go through the details.
Straightforward.
Hi, I'm Amanda Kais with Ty and Bond. That map shows in orange the existing main that runs through the marsh that Carl was talking about, and then in blue is the location of the proposed new water main. The new water main, it's approximately 3,900 linear feet. It's going to connect at Tide Mill Path where the existing water main comes out now, but then cut across 101 and run down the eastbound shoulder of 101 until Church Street and cut back across. And the reason it's on that side is because the town of Hampton's two sewer force mains are on the west, are being installed now on the westbound side. So the majority of this project will be installed by open cut methods. It's 16-inch HDP. It'll be fused along the proposed trench. And then once a large section is fused together, the trench will be cut and the pipe will be buried. The only location that's not being open cut is the river crossing, where we're proposing to directionally drill. So that'll involve excavating 2 pits on either side of the crossing outside of the wetlands boundary. It's about a 350 to 400 foot directional drill across there. They'll start on the northern side and drill a pilot hole and then ream it out larger until it's large enough to pull a 16-inch pipe through. At the completion of the project, all site will be restored to existing conditions. The only new visible structures would be the valve boxes for the water valves along the route. And then there is a sampling station that's required by DES to be installed on the north side of the river. And that's about the size of a fire hydrant. And that'll be installed just off of, behind the guardrail next to that access ramp there. So that summarizes the project, and we're happy to answer any questions that you have.
What about New Hampshire DOT permits?
Yep, we've submitted the draft excavation permit, as well as, we're working with them on use and occupancy agreement that will be needed for that.
Okay. What about your timing?
Assuming everything goes well through, like, through,
That's a leap of faith, I
state
guess.
permitting, it would be, April would be the earliest that we would get that approval. And then, of course, we have to work with the town and DOT on timing, as well as with some other Fish and Wildlife as well.
What do you see as the length of the construction project once you start?
Approximately 12 weeks.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's a relatively short,
Yep.
okay.
What kind of pipe?
It's HDP, which is high-density polyethylene pipe.
No more iron pipes that are gonna rot.
Yes, that's the reason for using the HDP in this area, just because of, tends to be more corrosive soil, so they, yeah.
Nobody uses the stuff she's thinking about for 30 or 40 years, but that's okay.
We're trying to clean it all out of town with all the
Well,
new.
they're bringing new stuff, but
Yeah, but if you don't ask Fran, you don't know. And then at the
she's a very good
end,
engineer.
is any of the water gonna go to the Public Works Department? Is that, is
So,
it?
we're not changing, we're really just replacing that orange main in kind, so on either end, it'll just tie in to where it does now. and feed
Wherever
the
it
same-
goes now,
It'll feed the same,
Okay.
that main
think
continues down
that's-
Church Street to the
as
tank.
opposed to where Public Works is when you get,
Oh, on the other side of
Oh,
Tide Mill,
yeah.
yep.
oh,
Yeah.
good,
Further
Thank you.
questions from the board?
gonna be good.
Sounds
Uh,
good.
Seeing none, we'll go to the public. Anybody from the public wishing to speak on this application? Seeing none, back to the board. I was on the, I wasn't, actually, I was on the Conservation Commission, and it was pretty straightforward there as well, so I guess I'd entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion to grant the wetlands permit.
With
Do we have
the,
a letter from?
you do have a
Conservation?
letter from Conservation
Conservation.
dated January
Yeah,
23rd,
yeah, seen here.
2019, and with those stipulations.
Yeah,
yes.
that's what I was gonna say.
Moved by Tracy, second by Mark. All in favor? Aye, opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time.
19-5, 1 Great Boar's Head Avenue, map 266, lot 53, applicant Linda S. Pearl, owner of record Craig and Linda Pearl, wetlands permit, construction of seawall that is 49 feet long, 7 feet wide, and 3 to 4 feet tall to prevent erosion along the seashore, along the shoreline.
Oh, you did? DJT.
That's six. Thank you, sir.
It's the very
Yeah.
first.
Well, we are six tonight, so
And
I don't know if you want, you also should have gotten just a drawing of what the lawn looks like.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, my name is Mark West. I'm a wetland scientist. I worked on the abutting properties to this.
Yeah.
And that project was completed relatively quickly. And this wall could not be part of that because the wall is totally gone. And it's eroding into the slope. And so this project was applied for separately. It's, the map I gave you is slightly different. Originally, we were gonna access where the previous access was on the abutting piece. However, there's even a more gentle slope on the Pearl property. They do have to remove a little section of a fence, and they're gonna use, big pieces of plywood to protect the lawn area there. And then Anthony's gonna do his work. The revised plan included the pink access in a different location and a slightly larger area of temporary impact. Basically, a lot of the large rocks are there, buried under smaller rocks, so we're gonna do the same thing we did before, and it's gonna tie into the existing recently repaired wall, and it's gonna tie into a cement retaining wall in the condominium complex next door, which has a large vertical wall, and from there, it goes all the way down to the beach. We did meet with the Conservation Commission, we did a site walk with the Conservation Commission, we got a letter of recommendation from them. Everything's out of the water, above the high tide line. We oversee it, we take lots of pictures for Rayanne, and this one is not gonna take more than a day, probably.
I was on the sidewalk and at the meeting, and it was, as Mark described, pretty straightforward. The only question I have is, in the materials we were provided, there's an abutters list. Are you aware that the whole of the Boar's Head Terrace needs to be?
Yes, I got rescued by staff here.
We got a short version, I think,
Right.
because I think the whole street
It
needs
was
to be notified.
expanded, and they were notified, and we paid up for the extra notifications.
I just wanted to verify that. Other than that, I didn't see any problems with the project. Questions from the board?
They're down at the bottom, basically, of Great Boar's Head Ave, this property. It's
Right.
closest to the highway. It goes like that. So that's a really serious flooding area, obviously. You're going to take the existing rock, like you did with the other properties and just push it all up?
Push the larger rocks up right at the base of where the slope is eroded. We're not expanding it out. Whatever they lost to erosion is gone, and we're gonna just put those rocks in there. He may need to bring a couple larger stone. It's all large stone, and they literally get stacked on each other, and the larger they are, the more apt they're not to wash away. So,
I'm gonna betray my ignorance, because what I'm wondering, looking at this picture, could you put, say, larger, like rock posts to the south side of this area, so that all those stones don't sweep away? You know what I'm saying?
this is the drawing of what's gonna be built, but you should realize that the revetment
Yeah.
was built here.
Right.
And the direction of the storm surge typically comes at an angle.
Yeah, oh, okay.
And so,
'Cause-
the other ones are sort of,
Yeah,
the other walls that were repaired
because I'm
are
familiar
not
with
as
the-
directly, hers is almost perpendicular to the angle of the storm.
Yeah.
But we're using, the state wants us to use as much of the rock that's already there.
Oh, yeah,
And it's all gonna be large stone that
Right.
holds it in place.
but instead of trying to, I mean, probably a big wall would help you more down here. You're not gonna be able to do that. But I was just wondering if like, just rock or granite things banged in to prevent all the stuff washing out at once.
Well, the revetment that was rebuilt does that, and that is what will protect them. The project that was done adjacent to them
'Cause
will
this-
help protect them.
This is tough, yeah, because I'm very familiar with the area. Well, thank you for doing what you're doing, and it certainly needs to be done down there.
Further questions from the board?
Do you want that for you?
Seeing none, we'll go to the public. Anybody from the public wishing to speak on this application? Seeing none, back to the board. Again, I was at both the sidewalk and the conservation meeting, and it's pretty straightforward. And their recommendation is contained in their letters, so.
I would move to grant the wetlands with the conservation letter of January 23rd.
I'll second.
Moved by Tracy, second by Mary Louise. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your help.
Continue public hearings, 18-69, 226 Island Path, continued from November 7, 2018, and January 2nd, 2019. Map 285, Lot 15, applicants Patricia and Stephen Dunn, owners of record, same. Wetlands permit amended, tear down existing single-story structure and build a new two-story structure using a slightly smaller and reconfigured footprint. The new structure will incorporate a portion of the existing first-floor deck as indoor living space.
Good evening. Introduce yourself.
Good evening, Norman Carpentier, Carpentier Construction, representing Patricia and Stephen Dunn, 226 Island Path. This plan originally, when we came in the first time, was gonna be a jack and rebuild of this house, but the house was damaged to the point where, we couldn't do that, so that's why we continued. We went to zoning and, decided to tear the house down, move the house to the north and to the east, which pulls it away from the river and away from the marsh, and put in new helical pile foundation and elevate a new structure on the site.
Questions from the board?
I-
Yes?
I can't tell from this, Norm, but how large is the property? How much area have you got to work like? Is it an acre or half an acre or? Because you said you're gonna rip down the house and relocate and rebuild it a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna take it down. The footprint of the house is actually gonna be smaller than what it is now.
Okay.
The exact,
So what kind of pervious surface is gonna be there under the new?
under the,
build?
you're going to increase the pervious surface on the site by 42 square feet. You're going to increase it.
Okay. Because we had an email from a neighbor
Mm-hmm,
on Island Path.
yep.
And they want to raise, they said they were flooded 7 times last year.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted my board of selectmen to look, to seek for a grant for them because they don't have the money to raise their house up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm concerned about properties in that area and in the flooding areas. Is this new property gonna be up on stilts?
Yes, well, it's gonna be up on concrete piers.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm just kinda nervous about that area with all that flooding.
The base, finished floor elevation is gonna be at 11-foot minimum, so we're gonna be 2 feet above
It's gonna be-
flood elevation now.
Further questions from the board? Seeing none, we'll go to the public. Anybody from the public wishing to speak on this? Again, we have a Conservation Commission
I do want to make a
recommendation.
correction. though,
Oh, I'm sorry, go
if I
ahead,
may.
Jason.
Okay. So in the January 23rd, 2019 letter that you have, it references a Conservation Commission recommendation letter dated January 17th, 2018. In fact, the date of that letter should be December 27th, 2017. And that is attached.
It's
there.
attached, right?
So when we do make a recommendation, it's gonna be with that letter from December
Okay.
27, 2017. Also, it's going to include stipulations number 1 and number 6 from that letter, because now the house is going to be raised, it's gonna be on pilings, so those don't apply, the foundation doesn't apply, and the existing deck doesn't.
Okay. Everybody got that?
Yep.
Very good.
I make the motion
Moved by Tracy.
with those two struck.
Excluding 1 and
With
6.
the- and the
Six,
correction,
right,
right.
and the two conservation letters.
Second.
Second by Mark, all in favor? Aye, opposed?
I can't vote for something in the wetlands. I
So
just
you're
can't vote.
opposed?
Well,
Is that a no?
I'm gonna
Abstain.
abstain on this one.
Okay, 601. Thank you, Mark.
Have a good night, thank you.
Consideration of minutes of January 16, 2019.
So moved.
Second,
Moved by Mark, second, all in favor? Aye.
I abstain
Opposed,
because I
one
wasn't here.
abstention.
Other business, 92 Ashworth Avenue, request for 24-month extension of active and
Jason.
substantial as defined in condition number 1 of the March 1st, 2017 site plan approval and provided in RSA 67439.
Okay, so this is a project that was approved by this board on March 1st of 2017. As you know, and often in the conditions for these projects is the first condition for active and substantial construction, which basically defines construction and completion of basic infrastructure such as foundation walls and footings, utilities, drainage improvements, and installation of erosion and sedimentation control. So they are at the 24-month mark now. Their plans are done. They're ready to be recorded. The conditions have been met, but they can't obviously start this construction yet because of that. My recommendation would be to grant an extension of the active and substantial for the 24 months that's being requested here. They are getting their contractors in place and plan on starting in the spring.
So you're telling us they're ready to go,
They're
basically?
basically ready to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do they need another 24 months? Is this just gonna
Well, typically, I
drag right out?
actually, we don't run it up against this very often, and I look back historically on what this board has done, and they've granted 24-month extensions based on the RSAs.
Yeah, I hear what Mark is asking,
But he's-
you know,
yeah,
I've
if-
already,
if you wanted to
assuming
grant-
you're looking at
If you wanted
something
to
shorter,
grant it
right?
for a year, I suppose you could. I don't think there's anything in the RSA that says you can't.
Where is 92?
Just
Wait,
past
roughly.
Ashworth Ave, where the parking, large parking lot is.
Right before the Royal Market.
Just
Police
after the
station?
police station, yeah. If you're heading south.
What's proposed?
It was a restaurant, a Frenchie's
Oh.
restaurant, and then they had
Yeah,
they had a second and
upstairs.
third story, had a one unit above it.
Yeah.
But they're good to go now, I guess, as far
Okay.
as, but that's up to the board whether it wants to grant their extension.
Further discussion on that? Mark, do you wanna
Okay.
do a 12-month?
I just,
I mean, I don't know that it matters if in fact they're ready to go.
That's my.
I guess I
yeah,
just see
yeah.
the can getting kicked down the road again. Are they there with a temporary parking lot, right? Did we issue them a temporary
Oh,
parking
No.
lot permit? So
Not-
like
not
it's
for
just,
that
No,
site.
okay, not for the,
Not for that.
they haven't requested
That
that?
wasn't, no.
So it's just vacant?
They were getting their construction and financing in order, and my understanding is they're ready to do a pre-construction meeting, get started this spring, is my understanding
That
from
was
the engineer.
it seems like it was a while ago. 2
It
years?
was 2 years ago, yeah, 2
It
years.
was 2 years ago.
March
There you
2017.
go.
So, yeah.
I don't know.
I'd move to give them a 12-month extension.
you
Okay.
said 12, right? Okay,
Of the active and substantial,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay.
Tracy, 12,
Second.
second by Mark. All in favor? Aye, opposed?
I'm gonna abstain.
Abstention, 1, 601.
Rockingham Planning Commission recommendations for reappointment of commissioners.
Okay, so, we're at the 4-year mark now where the terms of Fran, Mark, and Barbara Kravitz, all expire. That's in April of 2019 that those terms expire. So what this board needs to do at this point in time is, nominate, each individual for the seat again for another 4-year term if they wish to be reappointed to such seat. Then the Board of Selectmen will take it up for the actual appointment. Barbara Kravitz, I did speak with her, and she does request the nomination for an additional 4 years of her term.
She needs to, she's chairman.
I would say just for myself that I intend to opt out, and what I would like to do, Ann is currently an alternate, and nominate Ann as, for the
that's nice.
permanent position. I would also nominate Barbara Kravitz, so,
That's great.
Mark, I don't know.
So
what
we're
you-
gonna need votes on those respective.
What's that?
We're gonna need votes on those
Oh,
respective.
yeah, okay, yeah, sure.
I'll continue to be part of it. I was saying to Fran before the meeting that I feel a little guilty that I don't get there as often as I should, but I will try much harder.
You lose.
Huh?
You lose. They're having really interesting meetings these
I-
days.
Yeah.
You've got him on camera saying that.
There's so many, there's only so many Wednesday nights you can give up. So,
That being the case, do you wanna do them separately, or?
We should do them separately. That's
Okay,
what
I
we did
would
in the past.
nominate Ann Carnaby as
Second.
as a recommendation.
Second.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye, opposed, abstention?
And
I would,
I'll nominate Barbara Kravitz.
Okay, I
Second.
would second that, or, all in favor?
Aye.
And I would also nominate Mark,
Second.
second by Tracy, all in favor? Aye, opposed, none, abstention?
So I guess
You can vote for yourself.
So that will go to the selectmen, and the selectmen will make the
They will
appointment.
they will vote on the appointments, and then that'll be forwarded to the planning commission.
Excellent.
So they can throw the 3 bums out and get somebody else, right?
Right.
Alright.
Thank you.
that it?
Mr. Chairman,
That's, yeah.
if you would grant me a few moments of personal privilege now that we're through with
We're
the
not gonna
agenda.
talk about impact fees, are we?
Well, no, Fran, we
You're
need,
darn right.
we really need to. I've gone back and, Mr. Emmerich,
Whoa, we're talking about impact fees?
yeah,
We've already discussed this
No,
over
no,
and
no,
over
I
and
haven't-
over
no,
again.
No, please, because it's important. If you picture the town as a person who's sitting down with a checkbook, and there are bills on this side, and supposed revenue on this side.
We heard this
We're
at
trying
the
to
deliberative
get-
session. This is the same
I,
speech,
I know
right?
that, but there were just a few people there, and I really think
There's
this
just a
is-
few people here, and I
I th-
think
I
all of
think-
them heard it.
I think this is important for this community. Mr. Emmerich and Mr. Lassard sat on the 2002 Planning Board, which submitted the original article. The Planning Board submitted that article, and it passed by a very comfortable majority. In 2003, you were an alternate, Mr. McMahon, and Fran and Keith were there. And you've been on, both of you, or all of you, been on for quite a while. And that article passed as well. And the next year, in 2004, the Mayberry report helped set up the school impact fees. That, at that time, it was only SAU 21. But then when SAU 90 was formed, 8 years later, whenever, then they were brought into the picture. After that, you had a Mayberry study in 2009, but it appears that there was never any action taken on it. I got a figure from the assessing office before the deliberative session. From 2005 to 2018, 278 million, I'm sorry, 80,700 in building. Just the growth in this town. And then Fred, of course, Fred Welch wrote you a letter in September, which I started to read, and the moderator wasn't very nice to me, but I won't be mean to him.
Stop.
But he wrote a memo, and
Can I ask what the point of this is?
Yeah.
because
Are
we
you gonna be-
need revenue,
First,
Tracy.
wait, 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 wait.
Let me
The
respond.
select board is in charge of setting the budget and raising taxes, not this board. We're not a taxing board.
Well, why did you submit the impact
I
fee
didn't.
articles? Well, Tracy and Keith did, and you did with that board the following year. Just
We're
bear
not,
with me.
we've been
bear with
around
me for
this
a minute.
over and
No,
Bear
no,
over and
no,
over.
I
Gentlemen.
don't wanna hear it again. Honest to goodness, you said this at least 15 times.
Yeah.
I am not gonna change my mind. That 278 million went into our tax base.
Right.
Every year we tax it, tax
Right.
it, tax it,
Those
tax it.
There's your
people are
revenue.
paid.
There's your
We'll
revenue.
be
They're
able-
Plenty of it. We've
We'll-
done our part,
We'll
right?
be able, why didn't you do the same thing to the school district? The school population is shrinking. Why
Fine.
did
Let's
you do that?
cancel it.
Look, I agree with
Let's
Tracy
cancel the
on
impact
that.
fee.
No, what I'm
I-
trying to explain to you is that the town has needs, it has grown
I
very
think you
fast.
need to
and we need
understand
revenue.
the statute. The
I-
statute doesn't say you can willy-nilly impose these fees. It says it has to be done through a process.
Yes, and
You
you brought,
had to have a
Need.
plan that showed the need.
and you hired Bruce
You-
Mayberry.
What you're talking
in
about doing now is
2009.
repairing things that the selectmen and the budget committee that you chaired for years ignored over and over and over
Budget committee
again.
Has no power over
That's what you're
impact
talking
fees.
about.
But you did this assessment in 2009. You paid for this.
Yep.
From Bruce Mayberry, who is obviously the expert. And nothing else happened. And
I'm
one
gonna ask the
thing.
question again. What do you want to have happen tonight? Why are we hearing this again
Because
tonight?
you are the individuals who put the impact fee articles on the warrants.
What's that got to do with anything?
Well,
What do you
why
want to
did you
have
put
happen
them on?
tonight? Why should I listen to this
Why
for the
did you-
15th
Why
time?
did you put them on? Because I'm pleading for some help.
We've
the
answered the
taxpayers of this-
question multiple times.
Our town has an assessed value of $3.6 billion. We're the 8th highest assessed town in the state.
And we
If
have
we have to,
had-
if we have to hit developers up for an extra
but you're not.
$4,000 for the police
It's,
station.
it's individuals.
It
Yeah,
is just nonsense,
it's
really.
not.
It is, it's nonsense.
And it's a double
excuse
tax.
me.
You're gonna whack them up
This-
front and you're gonna whack them twice a
the-
year when they get their tax
The
bill.
developers are not an issue. The developers do not pay that tax. The individuals who buy the newly developed properties, the brand-new houses and the brand-new condos, are the ones who pay the
Agreed.
impact fee.
That's why we shouldn't
And
do
they,
it.
and they are moving,
Welcome to Hampton.
and
Let's
they
slap you in
are,
the
and
face
they
with
are
that.
moving, pardon me, I've got 55 years of my life invested in this community. These people come in,
Such pride.
and it means more traffic, more roads to take care of, more trash,
More
more
tax
people who
revenue.
need services.
These
We
units,
need, we
we're not
need
building
revenue.
Bungalows, right? We're building $600,000 and $700,000 homes that are contributing $12,000 and $15,000 a year.
A year.
That wasn't there last year. Are they wearing the road out at that rate? Are they these are people, they're
All
two-family
kinds of
houses.
services are needed for people coming into this community.
And that's why they pay $12,000 and $15,000 a year.
No, no, we-
Right?
But I'm-
We
It's
have a
it's
state
it's the same amount
constitution
of
that
money.
says
Then you're
they're
gonna slap
allowed
them
to
again.
come here.
But that's fine.
You wanna
But
take,
it's an extra strain on the town. This isn't the
wacky.
little town that I moved into in 1964.
well, that's true
It
of
ran
all
to
of
the
us, so
ground.
what? You
Ran
wanna
into the
build a
ground in
fence and
55
close
years.
it off?
Why did you put
Good
this?
God.
Why did you?
I'm gonna make a motion that we adjourn.
Why
I
did-
motion
why
to
did you put
adjourn.
this
Second.
in?
Second, all in favor, aye. Motion to
I'm
adjourn is non-debatable.
7:31.
I'm
Thank you.
opposed.
Righting the
ladies
wrongs
and
of
gentlemen.
55 years.